conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, Trump has been under huge attack in Washington and elsewhere in the world today after a meeting he had with the Russian foreign minister discussing what to do about potential terrorist attacks on aeroplanes. And I'll talk more about that later in the show. But the dominant issue is today was the Labour Manifesto launch. And I have to say, the day did not get off to a very good start because John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, when he was asked a simple question, what was the size of the deficit, played for time, we think went on Wikipedia, gave a figure of £70 billion, which is a year out of date. It's actually £52 billion. Not a good start to the day for Labour. But Jeremy Corbyn, in Bradford, delivered his manifesto speech. And I have to say, I thought he did it with some gusto. He did it with some passion. I've got a feeling, whatever the opinion polls are saying, that in some ways Corbyn is really enjoying being out on the road. He's attracting big crowds of people. Of that there is no doubt at all. So what was in this manifesto? Well, clearly there are going to be some big tax rises for those earning £80,000 a year or more. There's going to be a sweeping wave of renationalisations. He did, for the first time today, say that free movement would end once Brexit had occurred, but at the same time he said he'd put no cap on the numbers of people that could come into the country in terms of overall immigration. So I don't think that really has been cleared up. But perhaps the most eye-catching piece of the whole thing was that Labour would abolish tuition fees. Now, there have been a lot of questions asked as to, well, if the Shadow Chancellor doesn't even know the size of a deficit, how on earth are these 48 billion extra pounds of promises really ever going to be raised, and would not the deficit spiral under Labour? They're the questions that have been asked. But, as I say, there were one or two quite eye-catching initiatives in this, and it was delivered by a Labour leader who, to me, actually appeared to be enjoying himself. So I want you to tell me, does this manifesto win your vote or not? That's the question. And if you're saying, do you know what, Jeremy, you're the guy for me, then you can call me on 0345 6060973. You may think this isn't just back to the 1970s with tax, it's back to the 1940s with renationalisation. And if that's how you feel, well, you can text me at 84850. Or you may think, do you know what, actually, there are some ideas here that need to be talked about because they are radical, they are different, and perhaps after a bit of discussion, we'll make our minds up. And in that case, using the hashtag Farage at LBC, you can tweet at LBC. So please, get involved. Give me your opinion. And we will, over the course of the next 2 weeks, be analysing all of each individual party's manifesto launch. So if you think I'm being a bit critical tonight, or I'm trying not to be, but if you think I'm being a bit critical tonight of some of the things that Labour have promised, I will do the same absolutely for everybody. And your job, of course, is to tell me that I'm wrong, or if you want, even tell me that I'm right. You can also, of course, watch us on LBC's Facebook page right now. I'm here in Strasbourg, in the belly of the beast, where tomorrow morning, Mr. Juncker will be sitting in seat number 21, just next to me, and I'll be sitting in seat number 20. I wonder whether he'll find it within himself to be politer to me than he was to the British Prime Minister. I somehow rather doubt it. But back to the Labour launch. Does this manifesto win you over or not? John in Bournemouth, you're the first caller tonight.
Good evening, Nigel. Can I say you've had my respect for years, and you're a great man. It's the first time I've ever spoken to you since you've been RBC, and I will be trying to listen to your exchange with Juncker tomorrow. But yes, the Labour manifesto has blown me out of the air. I have to admit, I was a UKIP member, expires on the 1st of June, and I will be voting Labour. I agree with nearly everything in the manifesto. I think it's what Britain needs. I know you're going to disagree with things, but I think on the whole, most of it's really good. I have to admit, I'm slightly worried myself about the tuition fees because it's been a thing in the past. But it is supposed to be phased, and it needs to be structured, because I worked in a university back in, actually London University, back in the, actually I met you once in the town of Timothy Taylor down near Parliament, When you
Well,
were
that
just
sounds
leader.
that does sound about right, doesn't it?
Pint back in the 1900s. It was 14 pence a pint.
I believe you. I believe you.
Most of it.
Do you? No, I mean, it's very interesting. But John, as a former UKIP member, you would probably have seen immigration and the impacts of immigration on wages, on the ability to get GP appointments, on the changing shape of communities. You would probably have seen that as being a major issue. And yet, you know, when you look...
It's not my major issue in this election.
Okay.
I was always going to vote. I went to a meeting, I can't remember which your MPs came down to the pool in mid-Dorset, and I can't remember which one it was. Your strategy expert, and he said Theresa May was going to go on to 1919 or 1920. That's what he actually said. Sorry, what am I about? 2019 or 2020, then call an election. I did a double Brenda. I was trying to get a doctor's appointment that day, and I didn't get one. And I got home, and I did a double Brenda before Brenda came on the radio or television. Believe me, I thought, I don't believe this, because I was always going to vote Labour the next election, and she did have my mandate to negotiate our exit from Europe. She had that, but I'm afraid I'm straight behind this. This country needs sorting out. Yes, look at the costings, but I think there's a lot of money out there in tax evasion. There's of interest, just been reading about the way they're going to sort of look at offshore trusts. It was one of the Labour documents I just downloaded. I'm behind it completely. I'm aware of that. Yeah, I'm totally behind it. I think it's in the best interest of the country. It's what we need, because this country, too many people in this country are earning lots of money, and lots of people are downtrodden. Homelessness is on the streets in Bournemouth and Poole. They keep saying they've got no local connection. Easter Sunday, I went to the beach for a church service. I had homeless men in the doorways. Friday night, I came back from Guernsey. Homeless men in the doorways in Poole.
No, John, I know that. John, I know that. I understand that completely. But, you know, my argument's always been with this, that you don't help the downtrodden by taxing or penalising the rich, whether it's individuals or businesses, because what they then do, John, is they simply leave.
No, but there is this, that if really we don't. In Germany, Nigel, they had this thing called the middle structure or something, middle businesses, where they've always invested and they've always stood family-owned. They even make all our supermarket trolleys. We lack that sector in the United Kingdom. Labour have actually said they will not tax businesses that have, what is it?
Hang on, John. They're going to put corporation tax up substantially. They're going to introduce a tax on city transactions on derivatives. That means every single one of those firms will leave the City of London.
And 0.02%, Nigel, or was it 0.025%?
Well, 0.2 or 0.5, depending whether you're retail or wholesale. But believe you me, in some of those trading industries where there's very high turnover, they can frankly move to Switzerland pretty much overnight. So that concerns me. That does worry me. But I just don't think you help the downtrodden, John, by punishing the rich and successful. That's my feeling.
Nigel, if I was still working, I have an illness and I care for my mother, I'd probably be earning about 50,000 a year, and I would pay more. I'd pay a couple of thousand more in tax if it helped people out. But well,
John, you are. John, you are. All the best to you. You are a very kind-hearted, public-spirited individual. The trouble is, John, I think you're in a bit of a minority. And it's funny, it's true, but the richer people are, the more likely they are to up sticks and move. But John, thank you. John there has given a very strong testimony. He thinks Corbyn actually is going to tackle many of the issues affecting the downtrodden in this country. And John, I have to say, I said at the start of this programme, I thought Corbyn today, whatever you think of the policies, I felt he delivered this with gusto and with passion. William in Selby, are you sold on Jeremy's manifesto?
Hi there, Nigel. Yeah, I love the manifesto. I think it's pretty awesome. But also, I think it's great. I think it's great for workers. But also, I think something we can agree on is that it's actually really good for immigration. No party has pledged this, but Labour's pledge is that at the minute we have uncontrolled immigration into the UK, where companies can hire foreign workers at a lower rate than British citizens. Labour is committing that companies won't be allowed to hire foreign workers or immigrants at a lower rate than British people.
Well, that's all well and good.
It's been in the manifesto for years.
That's all well and good, William. But there are other parts of this manifesto that say that Labour would keep us up to speed and equivalent with other European employment regulations, etc. And one of the difficulties here is whether it's stopping that or whether even it's renationalising our industries. If we were to stay close to the single market, the European Union wouldn't even allow us to do these things. So I'm a little bit sceptical. You know,
these are trade union sort of things. These can be done. You don't have. These can be done without while you're still in the European Union.
Well, renationalisation as an EU member simply isn't allowed. And the reason that we have separate management of track and rail in this country goes back to a European directive in 1991. Now, if Labour really are accepting that we're leaving the EU, then yes, they can renationalise. But actually, William, on immigration, what he's saying is he doesn't intend to put any target or any cap at all. Is that really what people want?
Well, what people want is that they're getting a fair treatment from employers, and therefore not getting their wages compressed. We're seeing wages fall. Wages are being compressed, and people having less and less money. This would prop up people's wages and stop so many immigrants coming in.
No. Well, actually, William, the more we put up the minimum wage, the more we're likely to attract people from countries where it's 6 or 7 times cheaper. So I'm not completely convinced by that. But anyway, you like the manifesto. How did you think Corbyn himself performed?
No, I think it was pretty good. He was very enthusiastic anyway. Yeah, definitely.
No, he was. I agree with that. Are you normally, William, a Labour voter or not?
Well, I'm only 20, but this is my first time voting. But yeah, I'll definitely be voting Labour. I've always supported Labour. So yeah.
Yep. Okay, William. Thank you very much indeed. Well, William loves the manifesto. What does Craig in Newport think?
Good afternoon. How are you, Nigel?
I'm very well, and you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm a bit of a floating voter. I voted UKIP at the last election, but I voted both Conservative and Labour in the past. Being from Wales, you know, it was the Labour heartland.
It was. It was. That's it. But that Craig now is in very, very serious jeopardy, isn't it?
It is. Yes. Yeah. And it's quite concerning. Look, I think Corbyn did quite well in his speech. I think it was set right. You know, he chose the place in front of all those nurses to, announce his manifesto, which was, a great bit of, he done well. However, I love the manifesto. I think he's offered people, nice things, but I just wish we had more time to digest it all and dissect it all, because I'm not quite sure whether everything on the face of it will turn out, or whether they can actually do everything that they say they're going to do.
Well, I think, Craig, to be honest, that's the case with all parties and all manifestos at every election for all time kind of thing. I mean, you can read it, of course, Craig. It's 128 pages long. They had a long manifesto back in 1983 that was called the longest suicide note in history. But so far, Craig, you, and I thank you for your call, and everybody else is saying they actually really like it. So we're analysing today the Labour Party's manifesto launch. We'll be analysing all the parties as they launch. Don't forget, you can get involved with this. You can call, you can text, you can tweet. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Ian Brady has died, the 79-year-old who killed 5 children with his lover Myra Hindley in the 1960s.
Bring in former Deputy Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, who was a detective sergeant at the force at the time of the crimes, John Stalker.
Whilst they were torturing and killing the little girl, Leslie Ann Downey, in the background they had the little drummer boy, the Christmas song. As we heard this child pleading for a mum, we could also hear this song playing in the background.
Join me, Nick Ferrari, tomorrow morning for details on how you can show your support for a lasting tribute to UK policing with LBC.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, now open in Aberdeen.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Your future is here. The Global Academy in Hayes is a state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Find out more at globalacademy.com.
We've been thinking about pruning, not your peonies or your privet, but your cost of living, and how, from broadband to mobile phones, these days we're all looking for ways to trim our spending. And then we thought, couldn't we help you cut back on your biggest outgoing? And we thought, yes, we could. So we'll always try to help you remortgage to a better rate and save on your monthly repayments. Mortgages for how life is now. NatWest. We are what we do.
Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
The best place for sleepyheads is in a Bridge bedding bed.
At Bridge Bedding, we have hundreds of beds and mattresses in stock from the biggest brands in the UK. We'll beat any price on a like-for-like basis and we'll deliver for free. So before you buy your next new bed, visit a Bridge Bedding Centre, Rectory Grovely-on-Sea, Upminster Road, Hornchurch, or online at bridgebedding.com.
The best place for sleepyheads is in a Bridge bedding bed.
Creating a perfect holiday with Travel Republic is just like creating anything. You start off with the basics, like, I want a beach holiday. Then you add a little more. A 4-star hotel. Then you add a few more flourishes. Near the beach, a local restaurant, flights from your favourite airport, and it's all been reviewed by people like you. And before you know it, you've made something really special. Book your perfect holiday. Search Travel Republic now. Travel Republic. Yours for the making. At all protected.
Oh, the garden's an absolute mess. It's my turn to have the cross-stitch crew round for tea and Battenberg. I'll have to get a landscape gardener in and a wildlife expert. It's a jungle out there. We could be eaten alive by those deadly flutterbugs. Oh, relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Marvellous local tradespeople who've been tried, tested and reviewed. All specialists in their areas, from landscape gardening to pest control. Oh, visit trustatrader.com.
This is LBC, live from Strasbourg, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Today was the launch of the Labour Manifesto. Jeremy Corbyn was in Bradford. He was fired up. He was excited. He said he will put up taxes for the top earning 5% of the country. He will renationalise the railways, water and much of our energy sector. He will end 0 hours contracts. He will abolish university tuition fees. He will ban fracking. He will build 1 million new homes. He will extend HS2 all the way to Scotland, and he sees no need for a cap or a limit on immigration numbers coming into the United Kingdom. You know, whichever way you cut this, and I'm looking at all of this, and I'm thinking, actually, putting up taxes, putting up corporation taxes, it won't bring in more tax because people simply will leave the country. But whether I'm right or wrong in that, what you have to say about this manifesto is that it was delivered with gusto and passion, and it does have in it some really very eye-catching, radical, interesting, and so far, callers have thought, exciting things. Whether it can be afforded is another question. But is it, in a general election that I felt in the last week has actually been getting a little bit stale, at least this is something we can genuinely talk about. Yes, I know it had all been leaked before, but at least we've legitimately got what it is today. Jane in Llandudno, what did you make of the Corbyn launch?
Good evening, Nigel. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Good evening.
I have always been a Conservative. I voted UKIP last time. We don't have a UKIP constituent... Oh, sorry, excuse me, I'm nervous. In our area. We don't have anyone standing in our area.
Don't be nervous, Jane. You're on LBC. Enjoy yourself. OK.
I found myself... There are elements that I thought would be so appealing to people, but what I don't understand is why the current government is not collecting taxes from overseas businesses importing products into this country, and we are not collecting the taxes from them.
Okay.
I'm struggling with that element. I'm a business owner, and we are struggling against this at the minute.
Jane, let me explain. As part of the European Economic Area, which is the European Union countries, plus it's also Switzerland and Norway, any company that's trading internationally can opt to pay its corporation tax wherever it chooses. So, for example, if you wanted to pay a lower corporation tax, you could go to Ireland, where it's 12.5%. You could go to Switzerland. Indeed, when Mr. Juncker was Prime Minister of Luxembourg, people were paying about 2%. So one of the potentially, Jane, one of the benefits of Brexit is that we get back genuinely our tax sovereignty on these issues. Now, I know it's not easy with things being sold online. It's quite difficult in some cases, but we will get back tax sovereignty. But, Jane, the real question is that if Labour would have put corporation tax up by 6 or 7%, would it yield more money, or actually would it bring in less money? That's the issue.
Well, I think at the moment there are a lot of people, as I say, like myself, that we've got a duty scenario going on in this country that UK duty is particularly high. I import wine from all over the world.
Yes.
The UK duty is particularly high. I struggle to explain to our producers why I need to put a premium on their wine, why I need to sell it at a higher price, because the UK duty is so high.
No, Jane. No, Jane.
Companies selling it in without paying any of the UK duty, and it's so frustrating. Yeah. So, I'm a UK taxpayer. I've paid tax all my life. I've been working all my life. And I just find at the moment who's going to act for me? Is Theresa a silent Remainer, and we're all going to be stitched up here? If she gets a massive vote and she's got a minority, are we all going to find ourselves in a position that she's just going to put a cabinet together and it will just go the way they want it to go? No deal.
Well, Jane, let's get back to wine, shall we? Because that's actually far more interesting than the general election, and I'm very keen on this subject. Yes, of course, we've got UK duties on wine, but also, Jane, what we've got is EU tariffs on wine. Very, very big tariffs we put on wine coming into this country from Australia or anywhere outside the European Union. So again, with Brexit, if we wanted, we could buy Australian wine a lot cheaper than we're currently buying it. That will be if Brexit is achieved up to us. Now, you asked about Theresa May. Their manifesto launch, Jane, is on Thursday. Let's see what they have to say. My own, and we're doing Labour tonight, but in 10 seconds, my concern is the bigger her majority and the more career politicians and former special advisors that get elected to Tory backbenches, actually, the bigger her majority, the more she's likely to concede many of the things that people who voted Brexit thought they were going to get. Jane, how do you now think you're going to vote?
At the minute, because I haven't got I want to have a UKIP candidate in my area, and I haven't got that. I'm in North Wales, and I haven't got one. And to me, I needed to have the opposition, and I don't have it. And I couldn't possibly vote for Tim Farron.
Right. Okay. Well,
and obviously Leanne Woods is just a waste of space. It's Plaid Cymru is the other option up here.
Yeah.
I am really struggling personally with my vote.
Well, you've still got 3 weeks to go, Jane, and thank you as a first-time caller for calling in. And there we are. It wasn't that bad, really, was it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. 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 On Facebook, I get Will saying to me, the Tories have doubled our national debt. Thank you, Will. Somebody else out there understands this. Very nearly trebled the debt. Let's spend the money on health and education instead of allowing billionaires to stockpile money that should be in circulation. Will, the one point you're making is very, very clear. One of the things in this election that gets me down is they say, how are you going to pay for it? Well, the answer is, we're not paying for things now. Theresa May will tell you, we've got this completely under control. Oh, no, we haven't. They have more than doubled the national debt, which has been going since the times we fought Napoleon. They've more than doubled it in 7 years. We are still borrowing £50 billion every year because our income does not match our outgoings. Alan says, Corbyn says Castro is a hero. Well, yeah, he does. Robert says the last Labour idiots who tried something like this were Wilson, Callaghan and Healey. They had to call in the IMF to bail out the UK. Left-wingers never learn from their mistakes. OK, well, there's some strong feelings on the other side of the argument. Tony in Bedford. You looked at this manifesto. Is it back to the past? Is it back to the 1940s? Or is this actually what modern Britain needs?
Hi, Nigel. Great to be on the show.
Hello.
I've got 2 points. Firstly, I quite like the manifesto, but I feel it's been rather wasteful. What I mean by that is that there's a lot of excess spending that they could have cut back on. which means that they didn't need to raise as much revenue. So, for example, they could have put the new tax rate up to 90,000 instead of 80,000. And what I mean is, like, rather than scrapping tuition fees completely, they could have put them back down to 3,000. So that could have made the manifesto more palatable. Secondly, I wanted to talk about the costing of the Labour manifesto.
Please, yeah, well, I tell you what was really interesting was when they were asked about, you know, the renationalisation of water, they simply didn't have an answer to that, did they?
You mean about the costing?
No, I mean, you know, none. I mean, actually, a combination, Tony, of Diane Abbott on with Nick Ferrari, of the Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell this morning on the BBC. It doesn't appear. I mean, you know, as I say, there are some eye-catching initiatives in this manifesto, but they don't seem, Tony, to be very good at sums, do they?
They don't need to be costed. And what I mean by that is that when you're borrowing the money to purchase, you know, the utilities, the railways, whatever, you get the asset, and the asset offsets the debt. So it's not like an ongoing spend, like a benefit spend or something like that. So I think, you know, people are looking at it the wrong way. What should be costed is the interest on the debt, which I'm not sure they have done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last time I looked at this, I think our current interest payments on the national debt are bigger than the annual defence budget. So that's about where we are at the moment.
But I think, of course, as well, the national debt is going to go up, but just looking at the headline figure is wrong. If Labour are going to make, you know, the government bigger by making all these purchases, you know, the debt's obviously going to be bigger. So you should take a ratio, something like net debt over assets or something like that. That's more respective, because otherwise you're not comparing apples to apples, if you know what I mean.
No, OK. But, Tony, fine, I'm fascinated by what you've got to say. Is the manifesto good enough to convince you to vote Labour?
Unfortunately, no, because I'm in a Conservative stronghold and the Lib Dems are a close second, so I'll be voting for them.
You're a tactical voter. Very good. Tony, thank you ever so much for your call. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Rupert Bartier.
Labour's Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry has told LBC her party's manifesto, which includes scrapping university fees, prioritises the young. The Conservatives say the plans, which include renationalising the railways and water companies, are nonsensical and don't add up. The Lib Dems say they would wreck the UK economy. And UKIP are criticising Labour's plans to save pubs, saying they don't go nearly far enough. Detectives say they know who killed PC Yvonne Fletcher outside the Libyan embassy in 1984, but they can't prosecute them. They say key evidence is being blocked from use over national security concerns. A suspect arrested 18 months ago has been released from bail. LBC weather. Cloudy with rain across much of England and Wales. Cooler and mostly dry for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a low of 10 Celsius. Tomorrow, showers in many areas, some bright spells too, a high of 24 degrees.
LBC Travel, good evening. I'm Andy Lake. Well, there are a couple of issues on the M25 this evening. First of all, queues in Surrey. That's clockwise approaching junction 13 for the A30 at Staines because of an accident which is blocking 2 of the 4 lanes. It was held briefly earlier on, actually. Anti-clockwise also slow in North London. That's in junction 25 for the A10 in Enfield and 24 for Potters Bar. A car's broken down there and blocked the inside lane. Into West London, Wood Lane in White City remains closed just off the A40 because of an accident causing delays from Shepherd's Bush Market Station. Into Gloucestershire, issues on the A40 there as well. It's actually closed to recover a collision between Northleach and Andoversford, just to the east side of Cheltenham. And in the West Midlands, the link road from the northbound M5 to the southbound, from the northbound M6, beg your pardon, to the southbound M5 is closed for an ongoing police investigation. It's been brought to a total standstill on the approach. For more real-time traffic updates, go to lbc.co.uk.
This is LBC.
We've been thinking about Tom.
The cat.
And how, whilst he's remembered to buy cat litter, he's forgotten his bank card. But instead of worrying about how he's going to pay for it, he's simply wondering if a dog might have been a better choice of pet. That's because at NatWest, we've already thought about the left bank card at home scenario. It's why we created Get Cash, so you can withdraw money from our cash machines with just our mobile app. NatWest. We are what we do.
Take out up to £130 a day as long as it's within your withdrawal limit. App available to customers with online banking and a UK number.
With thousands of seats at £30 one way, find the feeling with Monarch. Fly to Spain, the Canaries, Portugal and many more. Book now at monarch.co.uk. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, the garden's an absolute mess. It's my turn to have the cross-stitch crew round for tea and Battenberg. I'll have to get a landscape gardener in and a wildlife expert. It's a jungle out there. We could be eaten alive by those deadly flutterbugs. Oh, relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Marvellous local tradespeople who've been tried, tested and reviewed. All specialists in their areas, from landscape gardening to pest control. Oh, visit trustatrader.com.
Driving has a new sound. Calm, quiet, yet exhilarating. It's driven by a new kind of energy, and it instills a new kind of feeling. But don't take our word for it. Discover the BMW i3 at the BMW i Electric Experience from the 19th to the 21st of May at your nearest BMW centre. Search BMW i3.
I've broken down, Churchy. Cars like me belong in the fast lane, not the hard shoulder.
Oh, yes.
Oh, now I'm really going to blow a gasket.
No.
Don't end up stranded when you break down. Churchill offers new motor customers free breakdown cover.
Oh, Churchy, my knight in furry armour.
Oh.
Churchill. Depend on the dog. First year free breakdown service provided by Green Flag, roadside only. New business policies only. Excludes NI, underwritten by UK Insurance Limited. Terms and conditions apply.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Strasbourg, only on LBC.
Once again, Washington and US politics is a day of huge arguments, and it seems to be quite a common feature. Because last night we had the governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant, on the show, and he described Donald Trump, I'm never going to forget this term, as a blue-collar billionaire. Either way, there are significant sections of the establishment in Washington that can't stand him. And today Trump has defended his absolute right to discuss sensitive material on terrorism and airline safety at a meeting with Russia's foreign minister. Lavrov was in the White House last week, and they talked particularly about the worries that America have about laptops potentially being taken onto planes and used to ignite explosions. Now, there are some are saying this is wrong because this betrays the source. And no one's confirming or denying, but it's thought that perhaps Israel was the source. And I'm just very struck that, frankly, anything Trump does is jumped on by the opposition and the liberal media and made into a complete and utter storm. The National Security Advisor, General McMaster, has said tonight he's done absolutely nothing wrong. And what on earth is wrong in sharing intelligence with another country to work together to fight against what ISIS might do to our communities? I really find this row quite utterly extraordinary. There we are. But I admit I'm a Trump supporter, and you may think I'm completely wrong. And by the way, if you want to call in on that and tell me I'm wrong, please feel free. We're going to go now to Leon in Portsmouth, and I'm going to ask you, Leon, has Corbyn, with this eye-catching, although perhaps not very well-costed manifesto, has he caught your eye?
Well, yeah. It's nice to speak to you, Nigel.
Good evening.
I'm a young person in England, and I've been pretty inclined to vote Conservative for, well, all of my life up till this general election was called, when I've actually looked at the different policies and what the parties are proposing. I've seen that Labour seems to be the only party that actually appeals to the younger people, because they said they've pledged to inject over £25 billion into a national education service and scrap the $9,000 a year tuition fees. So I just want to know, what can the other governments do? I mean, they seem to be winning over everyone.
Well, it was it was Labour, of course, who brought tuition fees in to begin with. It's one of the closest scrapes that Tony Blair had in Parliament, getting that through, despite having a massive majority. It was very interesting. And then, of course, it was the Lib Dems, Leon, that got in real trouble on this, because Clegg had held up a great big pledge card to say they would not, support an increase in tuition fees. And, of course, for most students, actually, they trebled with Clegg as Deputy Prime Minister. So it is a big issue. It is. I mean, Leon, my view on it is, we now send about 4 times the number of young people to university as we did when I left school. So no wonder we have to charge. It does seem to me, though, that for subjects like science, technology, engineering, medicine, where there is such a chronic shortage, Leon, of skilled people in this country that we have to import people from abroad. I would certainly want to abolish tuition fees on those subjects.
Yeah, well, I think with tuition fees, I think it's great for every subject, to be fair, but I think the fact that Labour's pledged so much money to it, it starts me worrying about where they're going to get the money from. I mean, you can't trust Diane Abbott, can you? You've seen her on the show. You know what she's like with figures and facts. She's not very good, is she?
She wouldn't be very good at teaching GCSE maths, would she? No, I agree.
Not at all, no.
but tell me, Leon, are you a student at the moment?
Yes, I am, yeah.
You are? Because I'll tell you what's really interesting is that a lot of current students who are racking up these debts actually aren't terribly impressed by this policy. Do you know why? It's not going to help them, is it?
No, I understand. I mean, the debts that people have been getting, I mean, I've known people that have come out with like 30,000 in debt and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't a great way to start life, is it, when you leave university? You want to be able to get a good job, get a mortgage, get a house, and, you know, kickstart your life for the future. But
that's true, Leon, although when you get a mortgage, believe you me, you've taken on an even bigger debt.
Oh, gosh, yeah. But it's the only way you can do it at the moment, whereas with this, I think this is a sort of something that you can change, and it won't make a huge impact. But, I mean, it will obviously make an impact on money. But I think that it's a good idea, and I don't see what the other governments are going to do about it. I mean, the Lib Dems, I could never vote for them because, I mean, they want to reverse Brexit. Why? It's a great thing for this country.
Oh, well, I think so too, Leon. But look, I mean, so you think that Corbyn came up today with some good, eye-catching ideas, but you're worried how he's going to pay for it.
Yep, exactly that. I think that, you know, Labour, with the money, I think they need to try and, if they can show me exactly how they're going to get this money and make it appealing to me, then I think they definitely want to vote.
OK, Leon, thank you. And believe you me, that is a question that is going to be asked of Corbyn and of McDonnell endlessly for the next 3 weeks. How are you going to pay for it? Text and tweets, Nigel, they're moving away anyway. The banks and those affected by the Robin Hood tax are already buying properties on European soil. You know this is right. Well, actually, to be precise, I think they're buying it on Swiss soil, mostly, because there was talk of the EU introducing this across all the member states. Sweden did do this, by the way. Back in the 1990s, Sweden did bring this tax in, and what they saw was their financial services industry leave en masse, and so then they actually had to reverse it. If these Labour voters think that Mr Corbyn is the best thing since sliced bread, God help us, I will vote for the sensible party, not the party that supports the shirkers and that think everything comes for free, says Peter in Hounslow. The Corbyn launch did nothing to address the true question that was at the heart of Brexit, controlling our borders. Well, I keep saying this. Every day this general election goes by, I keep saying the issue that has been number one in people's concerns, that has dominated politics, that led, I think more than anything, to the rise of UKIP, that led to the Brexit vote in the referendum, was the issue of immigration. Yes, open-door immigration to the EU, but actually it was about the sheer numbers of people coming into Britain from wherever. And what I'm finding with this general election is we're barely even talking about it. I can't fathom it. But, I mean, tell me, you know, maybe you feel that immigration doesn't matter anymore, but I think actually people still do. I wonder what John in Formby thinks about the Corbyn launch. John, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Nigel. I think this has come too late. I think the damage has already been done. One thing Labour has going against it is the old Tory argument that gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Essentially, Labour crashed the car, and the Tory plea is don't give them the keys again.
Yes, I mean, that is the Tory plea, but I also get a bit upset, John, when the Tories give the... I mean, I had this with Cameron in the leaders' debates in 2015, when he said, we are the ones who are being prudent and we're in control, you know, of the country's finances. And I said, Mr Cameron, you've doubled the national debt since you became Prime Minister. And he just kind of stared at me, and nobody else on the panel thought to follow up. And still, John, I repeat the point, we are still living beyond our means as a country to the tune of £50 billion a year. So it's all well and good, John, the Tories saying that Labour would wreck the finances, but I don't think the Tory record on this is really very good, do you?
No, I don't. But I think it comes down to the lesser of two evils. But I think another problem is the quality of the Corbyn team. They're just an embarrassment.
Well, why do you say that, John?
Well, what about Lady Thornbury of Rochester? That one isn't going to go away, is it? The hilarious Nick Ferrari car crash with Diane Abbott, with the £8,000 a year coppers, and then old MacDonald and his collective farms.
Right.
Another car crash today that you've told our listeners about. I won't repeat it.
Well, let's repeat it, John, because people, switch onto this show at various times. They finish work or getting in the car or whatever. So the Shadow Chancellor was asked this morning on the BBC, what was, a very simple question, what was the national debt running at? He hedged and hedged and hedged. It's alleged he got his mobile device out, went onto Wikipedia, found the figure of 70 billion, which is a year out of date. It's actually 52 billion. John, whichever way you cut it, I would agree with you, John. They're not very good at sums. But let me just ask you one final question for a thought. How did you think that Corbyn himself performed today?
Well, I don't like the guy, but I thought he did very well in terms of delivery.
Do you know what, John? I've criticised him on this show. I said, a chap can't do his tie up and, But actually, I was struck, John, that today there was some great passion in what he had to say. John, I thank you for your call, and I go to Ben in Haringey. Ben, are you sold on a Labour manifesto?
I think it's wonderful. I've
wonderful.
Waited all my life for it. I've waited since the last had a decent Labour government to bring in something like this. If you look at all of it, I love all of it. Particular things that will win votes is the nurses getting a pay rise. Another thing, the pay cap. I mean, I was working for a local authority and I didn't have a pay rise for 7 years. And when I got one, it was 1%, and then inflation destroyed that. So I still didn't get a pay rise for 8 years.
Sure.
So, it can only go so far. And more money...
Ben, can I ask you, Ben? Ben, can I ask you, are you a long-term Labour voter?
Yes, I am. I wasn't keen on Corbyn, but I'm warming to him because the man comes across as a genuine, decent man who wants to do the best for the country.
Okay.
And especially today when he was on fire. It's phenomenal. The tuition fees will be very, very popular, and it will win votes. The triple lock on pensions, the old age pensioners still getting a 2.5% minimum rise. That will stay. You'll get a lot of pensioners' votes. The hated bedroom tax, which destroyed...
Ben, where's the money going to come from, mate?
Well, if you look at all the offshore islands that Britain sustains, like the Cayman Islands and all these offshore islands where the rich are stuffing their money and not actually paying tax in this country, and the electricity and gas and water money going out of the country to nationalise industries abroad. It's totally crazy. You get French taxpayers living in our money because
but you can't, Ben.
It's for fleecing us at home with gas, water, and
but you can't repatriate. You can't forcibly repatriate money sitting in the Cayman Islands, can you?
The money will stay in the country. The money will stay in the country, and I know they should have investigators go into the whole lot, and of course that would be a massive scandal because there would loads of politicians would be in jail. Because of the fiddles they must have done.
But Ben, you cannot stop people, Ben, sending honestly earned money out of the country to any part of the world they choose, it seems to me. But anyway, let's not have a fight over that. Ben loves this manifesto. He thinks it's eye-watering. It's really going to catch people's imagination. And we're going to be analysing every one of the major party manifesto launches. Today it's Labour. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
As Labour launches its election manifesto, many have been saying today that the policies are popular, but not the leader. But is that really true?
Clive Bull on LBC.
You saw an opportunity and made it a reality. Now let's make it pay. Whether a coffee shop you built from the ground up or the website you started in your front room. Whatever your business is, let us help you take the next step.
WorldPay is the UK's leading payments provider, trusted by over 300,000 small businesses. So if you're looking to go online or simply switch to a more reliable card payments provider, WorldPay is the company you can rely on. Visit worldpay.com/makeitpay.
Clive, what's doing Wolf? Whale music? You must be one stressed-out private landlord.
Yes, I am!
Your tenants are struggling financially and can't pay their rent. But you're with Direct Line. They'll repay any unpaid rent until your tenants are out. So drop the stress ball. It'll all be over soon. Ah, that's better.
Claim back unpaid rent after 1 month's arrears with rent guarantee. Can your insurance do that? Search Direct Line Landlord. Cover purchased as part of legal expenses add-on. Qualifying criteria apply. Restricted claims for existing tenants in the first 90 days when product first purchased.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning.
Hamsey Sleep Centres have been selling beds for over 40 years.
Wake up, it's so beautiful.
With 5,000 beds in stock, our Sleep Centre specialists are here to help you choose the right one for you. And right now, every bed is reduced by up to half price, plus free delivery and free disposal of your old one. But hurry, it's this month only. Hamsey Sleep Centres in London, the South East, and online at hamseys.co.uk. Conditions apply.
The FCA has introduced a deadline to permanently end claims for missold PPI. When this passes, you could miss out. And with billions of pounds still to be repaid, some of that money could be yours. So call now and speak to Claim for Refunds. We have helped thousands win millions since 2009, and we could help you too. All we need is the name of your bank. So if you've had any loan or credit card, let Claim for Refunds find out for free if you had PPI. And if you have, you can claim yourself, or we can handle it for you. It's up to you. And if we don't win your money back, you don't pay a penny, guaranteed. You could be owed thousands and not even know you have PPI. Call 0800 180 8180 or text PPI to 88882.
Sitting at a desk for long hours in the wrong type of chair can be very hard on your back. But how do you choose the office chair that's right for you? Back2 is the answer. We offer a wide range of office chairs, sit-stand desks, and professional no-obligation advice. Too busy? No problem. We'll carry out a workstation assessment in your office. Back2, open every day in Wigmore Street and online at back2.co.uk. Get back to business with Back2, the office chair experts.
This is LBC, live from Strasbourg, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
In some ways, Jeremy Corbyn's had a very good day up in Bradford. He's launched this Labour manifesto, and he's done it with a bit of gusto and a bit of style. I think in some ways we've seen a slightly different side to him today. I sense he's really enjoying the election campaign. They may be 20 points ahead in the polls, or 18, whichever you believe, but actually he quite likes being out there and doing it. And your texts and tweets still flooding in. The Labour manifesto sounds wonderful. Just can't help wondering how long before the country's bankrupt. The money tree is the one the Tories grow from all our hard work and take the fruit for themselves. I'm working class, and Corbyn doesn't speak for me. He never has, and he never will. All political parties need to wake up to common sense. Any infrastructure critical to daily life should always be publicly owned and run. Well, I think there are many that would argue, actually, the railways, when they were in state hands, weren't universally popular, but, you know, it's as broad as it's long. Jackie in Bournemouth. Jackie, what did you make of Mr. Corbyn today? And does this manifesto, do you think it could actually close the gap on the Conservatives?
No. What I think is the Conservatives could take all the best parts of his manifesto and all the best parts of the UKIP manifesto and use all those to please everybody. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Well, actually, Jackie, isn't that what Theresa May's doing already?
That's right.
She's talk about over-promising. It's been remarkable so far, hasn't it?
Yes, I think she should do that. And I think, Nigel, they should make you a saint. I think they should canonise you. Saint Nigel, that's what we call you here.
Well, that's very sweet of you, Jackie. So tell me something. Are you tempted to vote for Jeremy Corbyn after today?
Not really.
Not really.
I just like some of his bits and pieces, but, well, how would he get his money for that? Well, I thought he doesn't want war or fighting, so they could cancel Trident, couldn't they? Because he doesn't want battle.
Well, actually, Trident. It was very clear in the manifesto that Labour will support Trident, which of course is a battle that he's lost with his own party. But I think had they gone for getting rid of Trident, that would, Jackie, have been the news headline tonight. Whereas the news headline, amongst higher taxes, but actually the abolition of tuition fees is a real standout policy, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Well, that's a very big deal, isn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
Students don't get a job even once they've got their degrees, so it's a double whammy, isn't it? It's doubly bad, rather.
Well, if they don't get a job, they're not forced to repay until they earn a certain amount. But tuition fees have been pretty unpopular, and certainly unpopular at £9,000 a year. Jackie in Bournemouth is not convinced, but I thank her very much for the call. Carol says on Facebook, Corbyn is a rich kid trying to help the poor. Has he ever had a proper job in his life? I think I might have used that line once, twice before. Prep school, then private school, don't believe him. I don't think he went to private school, actually. I think he went to grammar school. Rich says on Facebook, 92 billion on a railway line nobody wants. No, Labour want to extend it right up to Scotland. You'd get there very quickly. Daniel says, Corbyn telling us what we want to hear. So did Cameron. The only difference is Corbyn might not have his fingers crossed behind his back. Oh, Daniel, that really is cutting about my old friend, David Cameron. And Pamela says, I love the way Labour pluck these figures out of thin air. Well, do you know what? They could take some lessons from my friends here in Strasbourg, who, the last time I spoke here, I said, where did you get this figure of 60 billion euros that you want us to pay to leave? You've plucked it out of the air. Do you know what? They've now increased it to 100 billion. We might have a little chat about that tomorrow. Andrew in Wigan, has the Labour manifesto won you over?
No, Nigel.
Right, okay.
However, I really liked his speech. I've always been a Labour supporter, been brought up in a council estate all my life, and I've been educated, got a degree. However, I think the overriding factor in this is Brexit. There's not been one mention in his speech about Brexit, and that surely has to determine how much he can afford to spend.
Well, he does know. I mean, he did say in this manifesto that, we voted to leave and we will leave. But then he goes on saying that we'll stay opted into this and opted into that. And you wonder at the end of the day, we'll stay part of the European Medicines Agency. We'll stay part of Euratom.
It's a bit namby-pamby, though, isn't it? It's not committed.
I think the problem that Labour have had in this Brexit election is the simple lack of clarity on this issue. That's been their problem all the way through.
I agree. Yeah.
But I think what Labour were trying to do today was to say, look, let's move this debate on to other things like education and health. That is what this manifesto launch was about.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
good.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything he said, basically, but I shan't be voting for him. But there was no mention of the disaffected communities that were left behind. And I think that's why the UK voted to leave the EU, because they've been long gone forgotten.
Oh, yeah. And particularly in your part of the world. It was those northern towns, they felt ignored. They felt that irresponsible open-door immigration had changed their communities, had made it hard to get a GP appointment. No, but I completely understand why they did it. But I'm fascinated. No one is talking about immigration in this election when it dominated last year in the referendum.
Quite right, I know. I'd like to just point out as well that a lot of people, when it came to the results of the referendum, the early morning, and they were announcing it on the BBC saying, it was largely working class towns, uneducated.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to point out that people don't need to be educated to be intelligent. That is just so snobby, and I don't know, I think it just gets on my nerves.
Oh, Andrew, we're ill-educated, we don't wash very often, we're awful people. We really ought to be more like them, I know. And actually, in the referendum itself, the best example of that was Sir Bob Geldof sticking a two-finger sign up, not just to me, but to Britain's working men and women in the fishing community, and it rather summed things up. Andrew, I thank you very much indeed for your call. Well, my final thought on all of this is Corbyn today, we saw a different side of him. He did deliver a good speech with passion and with gusto. There are some really eye-catching ideas in this that people will be talking about. It's taken the debate, at least for today, away from Brexit, which many will view as actually being a little bit of mild relief after what we've been talking about for some time. But I'm afraid my own view is that it's back to the old ideas. It's back to renationalisation. It's back to high tax. It's back to a lot of state control. And it worries me. It worries me how a free enterprise economy that needs to make profits, that needs to make money, otherwise we can't pay for the schools and hospitals. It worries me what that would do. That's my concern. Now, don't forget, you can still register for tickets to come to my roadshow next week by going to lbc.co.uk. I'm going to be live from Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle and Glasgow, and you can be part of this discussion too. That's the Nigel Farage Roadshow, all next week, only on LBC. Tonight, you've been listening to me here from Strasbourg. I'll be back tomorrow evening from 7, having done battle with Mr. Juncker. Coming up at 10, it's Majid Nawaz, but up next, it's Clyde Bull.
Nigel, thank you, and we're going to continue.